Hey guys, I got this pretty cool old Yale Padlock. It's actually on loan from Jeff Moss. He got it and needed a key made for it, and he had Papa Gleb make him a key for it. Impression one, and he did a really good job on it. Works really smooth. And then they ran into another problem. The next problem was the plug wouldn't turn when the key was in. So you could feel that the pins were all set, but the plug wouldn't turn. So we sent it off to someone else, and they went ahead and got the plug to turn, and then the shackle wouldn't pop. So the plug would turn and the shackle wouldn't pop. So then he sent it off to someone else, and they tried to get the shackle open, and it just wasn't working. So I threw my hat in the ring, told him that I'd take a shot at it, and he said sure, and he sent it out to me, and I really appreciate that. And I thought maybe the shackle just needed freed up or something like that, but the shackle had plenty of play in it. There was no binding in it or anything like that. So it wasn't like the shackle was bound up. It was something internally, and my guess was the cam had sheared off or something like that, off the tailpiece or something like that. So eventually, the way I determined that was I hung the lock from a hook, and then I hung a rope around this, and then I put weights on the rope, and I put almost, I think, over 250 pounds on this with the key turned to the open position, and it did not open. So I knew that the locking pawl just wasn't moving. The key was turning, but it really wasn't doing anything. So I knew we were going to tear into this, and so I sent Jeff a message, and I said, hey, I'll go ahead and send it back if you want, but if you want, I'd love to try to fix it. And he said, sure, go ahead. So once again, really appreciate that. And so I knew I was going to have to take off the side plate first to get in there. Well, to take off the side plate, you normally open the shackle, then you stick a punch in there and you start peeling that over. And the problem was we couldn't get the shackle open. So here's my first attempt at removing this non-destructively. As you see, we may have had to have gone to a more destructive method to remove it. But so here's my first attempt at trying to remove this non-destructively, and it's total failure, but figured I'd just show you for the tape. Hey everybody, to get this lock apart, usually you would open the shackle, and there's a plate on here. I don't know if you can really make that out or not, but usually you can pop out that plate. Well, since we can't get the shackle open, then because I believe the cam sheared off, then we're not going to be able to get that plate out. So I decided to try and use this stuff. This is just metal putty. I use it in my challenge locks for refilling some cavities that I make when I'm making recesses and stuff like that for pins to get caught on and stuff. So I know it sticks to brass really well. I know two things: it sticks to brass really well, and also it comes off brass really well. So my plan is to stick a glob of that to the very top of that plate, and then I wish you could see it better, but it just won't come out on camera. And then I'm going to take this really thick threaded wood screw, and I'm going to squish it. I'm going to squish the putty around it really tight, and I'm going to let it dry for a day. Hopefully we can use we can use a hammer or something and pry up on that, and it'll pop that plate. It's roughly 1 day later, and you can see the putty's hardened up down there. I'm gonna start putting a little bit of friction on it, and there, yep, it just pulled right off. Didn't stick at all. Yeah, see, that didn't work at all. So that was try number one. Try number two did work successfully, and basically it was drilling a tiny hole and prying up on this, prying up on the side plate here, and then slowly working it off. So here is attempt number two, and actually the successful attempt at removing the side plate of the lock, so I could get into it. Okay, so now you can see I'm through you can see that cavity there now. You can see I'm through the plate, And hopefully that's all the damage that we're going to have to repair. Okay, we got the side plate popped, and it looks like a freaking train wreck right now. See, I don't know if you can see that yet or not, but I think I feel a spring or something. But this is my first time ever doing this, so. Alright, so you can see there, it just erupted, if you want to call it that. And there's our pin chambers, just like we wanted. So now, you see all that dirt in there, but this thing hasn't been open for a lot of years. Okay, so now I was into the lock and I was very excited. So I wanted to gut it and clean it, and determine what was wrong with it, diagnose it basically. So I just basically pulled all the pins, stripped it down to the bare bones parts, and examined them. And I determined that, excuse me, there was a piece sheared off on the locking pawl, and I'll show you that here. So let's dump the pins and see if we can dump the pins. Let's get a real good tight shot of the parts. So we got the pins, and those, we got our body, shackle spring, there's our plug with the interesting cam. I'll have to figure out how that works. Beautiful shackle. Got the side piece, it's got the little hole in it, but other than that, it's not too bad, not too worse for wear. There is your locking pawl, and the locking pawl spring. And this little guy is the piece that holds the shackle in. One thing I want to show you real quick is how I decided to start cleaning these chambers. I was trying to think of what I could use to get in there, and I thought I could use a pick, or dental pick or whatever, and clean that out, but that would take forever. So my kids play with these pipe cleaners, so don't tell them, but I stole a couple from them. And you can use one layer, or I do two, to give me a little bit more grip. And if you double them up, I'm doing this for the camera, so it might look a little clumsier. If you double them up, you can see in there, or maybe not. You can see in there, it goes right into that, it goes all the way through that chamber. And you just kind of swab it, running it down a bunch of times. And then, looks pretty darn clean to me. I'm just like number 4. Needs another swab, but just want to show you that little cool thing, that idea that I used to clean those chambers. So I'm sure it's been thought of by a million people. I've just never seen it done before. So, and hopefully it helps someone else trying to fix one of these. I determined the main problem with the lock is the cam, or is the, it's actually a combination cam slash locking pawl. So the problem was the locking pawl must have been froze up. Trying to get a good focus. And you see this little corner missing here. That corner used to be round, but you can see there was. I tried to bend it back, but it was so thin and flimsy that it just snapped right off. But anyway, what had happened was here's where the tail piece for the plug goes, and inside the plug there's just barely enough room for that to get over. If that was totally flush, if that corner was in there, if you can see that, then it would not be able to leave that area, and it would have no choice but to move the locking pawl in to release the shackle. Okay, so now we've diagnosed it. I tore it down, and we're looking at a way to fix the lock now. So my first thought was to make a new locking pawl with that little groove in it, and that went a lot less better, for lack of a better term, than I thought it would. So here is me making the here's me working on it slightly, but it was a colossal failure too. And I can show you I'll show you the end result of it. and the direction that we took after that. Right now I'm working on just fabricating a new one of these. This thing doesn't seem like it is too difficult to remake. First thing, I had to find something the exact same size as that hole. 5/16 was too big, quarter was too small. Anyhow, I bought this pin. At 5/16 it won't really fit in there, but if you take that 32nd off, works like a dream. I needed to remove a 32nd of an inch from the material, and went machine versus machine. So I got a Dremel with a grinding wheel, and this is a grinding wheel on my Dremel, and that'll take material off. So I'm using my drill kind of as my lathe, and I'll show you what I've been doing. I got the shackle notch cut in it, and then I got this notch cut in it to kind of match this one on the original one. I've done some stuff to this too, you can probably see, but you need a really flat, straight, yet round cut in there. I worked about 2 hours on this trying to make it right, and I just thought, we're gonna have to just rebuild the old one. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. I got to use a lot of tools, got to throw a lot of sparks, my two favorite things to do, but it didn't work. So I had to switch gears and basically fix the part of the lock that was broken. And I had an idea on how to do that, but I really didn't want to go into it with this. But I'm kind of glad I did in the end, because the original part I was making for it was made out of steel, and that would have rusted. Even with just moisture in the air, it would have just rusted. So I'm glad that we were able to use like the brass or the bronze from the original part. So here's what I did to fix that. Since this is brass or bronze, I went and bought a brass washer to reform that lip. As you can see now, instead of that being straight through, now it's got that lip on it that we need. I cut this with a hacksaw, just a hacksaw blade width, and we took the washer, and it was a little bit thicker than the slot, and I didn't want to make it the slot any thicker, so I just filed down that brass washer until it fit in the slot perfectly. That took a couple minutes. And then I hit it with some solder. I'm going to clean that all up. Don't worry, it looks like hell now. But what I'm just doing now is I hit it with the belt sander, or the disc sander, to knock all the tall stuff off. Come on, baby. There it is. And then you can see there that see there, it's nice and round. Just needs to be a little bit more round. I'm going to make it round enough so it'll just fit in the hole on the side of the lock. That's this part, the locking pawl / cam fits in there nice, nice and tight fit. That's what you want. Okay, so now I've got everything fixed, and the problem now, the only problem now is getting the side plate back on, and that was just a that was a chore in itself. Probably the hardest part, because it's the part everyone sees in the end. The locking pawl really didn't have to be all pretty, because no one's going to ever see that again. But this part had to come out nice, but it didn't really. But I emailed Jeff and showed him pictures of it, and I said, I'm going to try to fill it. And he said, nah, don't worry about it. He goes, well, it looks good enough to me. So Jeff, if you decide to have somebody else pull that back off and put a new one on or something like that, I won't blame you. Someone who knew what they were doing. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to work on this. So here's my attempt at applying this. Oh, I hear my dog barking. He must think that someone's like tuning in. He must think it's me. Oh, no. Now, as you can see, I didn't get it installed in that video. I actually had to. I was working on it, and I don't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time. I had to work on this in little sections, so I didn't have a lot of time to work on it. So I did some work on it without videoing it, but essentially what I had to do, I was trying to hammer it on there with it being flat or slightly curled up, and that wasn't working. So what I had to do was I had to like bend it the other way. So bend it in a bow this way, or put a bow in it this way, and then so both ends were kind of inset here on the piece, and then I hammered in the middle and the hammering pushed out those pieces basically into the notches they were. And when I tried to straighten it out and bend it, it kept stretching like taffy, because it's a really soft piece of brass. And you can see here that big hole that was in the side, it's actually shrunk considerably because of the stretching of the side piece. But the downside is that this little spot here is open now, and we still got some spot on the top there, but it's in there good. So you see it work. This is the end product. It's a beautiful working lock. It's got a little bit stronger spring in there, and then the pawl I made for it must have a little offset. I want it to be exactly the right size of the hole, so key's a little bit difficult to turn. It doesn't just snap back like it used to, so you do have to pop it back. I tried to pick this. I haven't picked it yet, but tried to pick this, and with that extra spring tension on there, it is very difficult to pick, and I'm going to try to pick it before I send it back to him, but I don't want to mess up. I just have been attempting it. I don't want to mess up that keyway any more than it is, because it's had a lot of work done to it, so I don't want to get in there with a tension wrench and tear that up, because this lock's been through enough. But anyhow, that's the story of this lock, and this is the short version, and I'm going to release the extended director's cut with minutes and minutes of bonus footage. So if you want to see exactly everything I did and how I did it, you can watch those. I'm going to break them up into 4 sections, about 15 minutes each, so you can watch those. But this is just a short and sweet version, and I just want to show you how I did what I did. And I just love this lock, and I'm going to be sad to see it go back to Jeff, but he is the rightful owner. And Jeff, I really appreciate you letting me tear into this, and you trust me with this. And I'd also like to thank Papa Gleb for making that key, and he and I are really good friends, and we were bouncing ideas. I was talking about this whole time. We were bouncing ideas off each other, so it's good to have someone like that when you're in lock sport. And then last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife for giving me some time here and there. I know we're really busy, but I really appreciate you giving me some time here and there to work on this. So thank you for that, and thanks to all my subscribers, thanks to all my viewers. And if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments, or more importantly, if you have any suggestions on what I could have done better, or how I could have done something better, please leave a comment. I'm not objected to any type of criticism or any type of recommendations. My ego is minuscule, so if you think there's something I could have done better, or something that I could have done better, please give me a shout, and I will definitely take that into consideration next time I work on one of these. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.